Well, a very good morning to everyone who has joined us today to hear about the artist Wilhelmina Barns-Graham. So thank you all very much for coming. The Scottish Gallery has a lifelong association with Wilhelmina Barns-Graham, and she is seen as one of the most dedicated and innovative artists of her generation. I'm very pleased to have Rob Airey with us this morning. Rob is the director of the Wilhelmina Barns-Graham Trust, and I'm sure we're about to have some fascinating insights into the work of Wilhelmina, with a particular focus on the works which are being exhibited in our Modern Masters Women exhibition, which is currently on show in the gallery. And if you haven't managed to come and see the exhibition yet, do give us a ring or drop us an email and book your appointment, because we'd be very, very happy to see you. My colleague Lisa will have just sent everyone a message saying if you do have any questions during the Rob's presentation, do feel free to message the chat box. And we'll do our best to answer any questions you might have. The last thing I'll say just before we welcome Rob is that these are free events that we are hosting, and if you felt so inclined, you'd be very welcome to make a small donation to one of the Scottish Gallery charities, which are included on our website, but we're currently supporting an M&D charity. So thank you all for coming, and I'm about to pass you over to Rob Airey from the Wilhelmina Barns-Graham Trust. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining. I'd just like to start by thanking Tommy and everyone at the Scottish Gallery for inviting me to be part of this events programme. And also, of course, including Barns-Graham, who henceforth I'll refer to as Willie, just for brevity, in the excellent Modern Masters Women exhibition at the Scottish Gallery at the moment. As we have a relatively short time, I wanted to focus on two works hanging together so wonderfully in the downstairs space at the Scottish Gallery. They were made 50 years apart and are of similar size, although one is painted in acrylic on paper and the other oil on canvas. Above the fireplace is Scorpio Series number 2 from Scorpio Series 2 number 15 from 1996, and to the right is Grey Sheds St Ives number 2 from 1947. So looking first at Grey Sheds, just a bit of background to this picture. Willie arrived in St Ives on the 16th of March 1940, probably with little inkling that she would spend much of the next 64 years of her life there. Having completed her diploma at Edinburgh College of Art in 1937, she had spent much of the following 3 years, between bouts of ill health, working in her Alva Street studio in Edinburgh. Identified as a gifted student, she benefited from a number of post-diploma maintenance and travel grants, one allowing her to spend 3 months in France in 1937 with her artist friend Margaret Mellis. These grants really helped her to keep going after college. Indeed, it was the college's principal who suggested spending time in St Ives might be beneficial for both her health and her artistic development. So Willie was already 28 when she arrived in St Ives, and she wasted no time in getting set up with a studio and getting to know the already well-established art scene there, and pursuing the life of a professional artist as best she could in wartime. Like so many artists, she was immediately entranced by the picturesque Cornish fishing village, which she depicted in this modern, though still quite traditional manner. As the war developed, artists were actively discouraged from painting coastal subjects, and Willie worked on interiors and portraits. Between 1945 and 1947, she looked more to the built environment of St Ives for subject matter, possibly in a quite conscious attempt to move away from the picturesque. Unpopulated by figures and devoid of any apparent narrative, These scenes seem to be much more about just finding something to paint, so she could really engage with the physical mechanics of painting, which, as we will see, was so important to her. So, the grey sheds currently at the Scottish Gallery is one of a pair. This is the other and shows the same building from a slightly different angle. Both grey sheds were shown in April 1947 at an exhibition in Downing's bookshop in St Ives. In this fantastic photograph, one of my favourites of Willie, the grey sheds from the previous slide is hanging directly behind Willie's head, and the grey sheds too is prominent top right. I looked at this photo of Willie in her studio quite a few times before I realised how sort of staged it really is. Who would be working on a picture once in its immaculate white frame? However, that she chose to be photographed with it on the easel does suggest that she thought it to be a successful and perhaps important picture. Like all these 1940s St Ives pictures we have quickly looked at, Grey Sheds is devoid of human presence and activity. In a recent essay, the art historian Rachel Rose Smith identified an almost surreal quality to it, its clarity and stillness perhaps lending the picture an air of disquiet. It's very interesting to see these two works hanging together, and I was thinking about what links these two very different pictures made 50 years apart. I think two things stand out. First is her use of colour. Although in Grey Sheds the tone is quite muted, and in Scorpio bold, bright and exuberant, they share an interest in the dynamics of colour relationships. Second is her use of undisguised visual brushstrokes. Much easier to see in the flesh, I have just picked out here 3 details from Grey Sheds, so you can hopefully see just how very raw and expressive strokes of colour she used in building up the picture. This, of course, reaches almost an apotheosis in the Scorpio pictures, where the power and joy of a single brushstroke of pure colour really become her signature. This expressive celebratory symphony of brushstrokes were carefully orchestrated acts of both control and expressive spontaneity. As I have said, 50 years separate these two pictures, and I can't explain here how she got from A to B. But very briefly, these late Scorpio paintings emerged in the mid-1990s, when Willie was well into her 80s. The mid-60s through to the mid-90s have been dominated by a very studio rather than landscape-focused practice, working in a hard-edged abstract style which used maths and geometry as the basis of very carefully constructed compositions. In the late 1980s, she seemed to be seeking a way out of this way of working, and a return to landscape painting in both Orkney and Lanzarote between 1984 and 1994, as well as the example of Miro, Tapies, and the late Picasso paintings she saw at the Tate, seemed to free her up and give her a renewed vigour, which would last for the last 10 years of her life. She often referred to the process involved in these late works as letting rip, and they led to a remarkable culmination of a long career, which brought her renewed critical and commercial success, and her CBE and a number of honorary doctorates. Here we see her with Scottish Gallery director Guy Peplow at an exhibition in 2002. I would love to have listened into this conversation. This exhibition celebrated her 90th birthday. And here we see her with a wonderful screen print. Alongside the Scorpio paintings in her late career, she also created a series of screen prints with the Scottish-based screen printers Graal Press. And this wonderful screen print is called Celebration at 90, a print she made to sort of celebrate her own birthday. So just before we end, I just wanted to mention that the Trust has its own website, which is a great resource for information about Willie, her life, to look at our collection and to find out the other activities of the Trust. I'd also recommend signing up, if you haven't already, signing up for our newsletter, our quarterly newsletter, which you can get online. Thank you very much.
Rob, thank you very, very much indeed for that fascinating insight into Willie and into those two works, which I think, as you said, they're fascinating examples. They have a lifetime of looking and painting in between them. You know, this 50-year period. You briefly mentioned Willie's the influence of travel on Willie's work.
Yeah.
And just off the top of my head, I'm just wondering whether you could just tell us a little bit more about the traveling, because I know that she was a great lover of travel and often painted with traveling.
So yeah, travel was important. I mean, I mentioned the travel grant she got from the Edinburgh College of Art in 1937, which allowed her to go to the south of France and travel around. And I think that gave her the bug for traveling, I suppose, and the confidence to do it as an individual sort of female artist in the 30s and 40s. And travel sort of recurs at moments through her career. So the most famous and important one was her trip to Switzerland in 1949, where she saw the glacier at Grindelwald, which led to a body of work, glacier pictures, which she worked on for about 3 years, which really made her a name as an artist. You know, the Arts Council and the British Council acquired works straight from the studio. She had a solo show at the Redfern in London in 1952 of the glacier works, and that's how she really established her name as an important British artist. And then in the mid-50s, she went to Italy 3 years on the Trot and Drew, and also she went to Ibiza in the late 50s in Spain. And then really for about 25 years, from the early 60s to the mid 80s, she didn't travel at all. And landscape, it was all about landscape. She was fascinated by landscape for about 20 plus years. As I mentioned in the talk, she got very studio based, and landscape disappeared from her practice altogether, and it became very geometric and mathematical. And it was really travel, going to Orkney and to Lanzarote in the 80s and early 90s, which kind of freed her from this geometric way of working. I think the landscape, and though it's not obvious in the Scorpio paintings, it was landscape painting which kind of freed her from this the sort of hard-edged abstraction which she'd been working on. So yeah, travel was critical at specific times. Yeah, I should just mention this. We do have the touring show which is going around the UK at the moment. It's in Bristol at the moment, and we'll be in Southport in January. Inspirational Journeys. That is all about her travels as an artist and the importance they had for her practice. Yeah.
And Rob, would you like to mention as well the brand new book which has just been published?
Yes, indeed. So there's been one significant book written about Willie, which is Lingering to Studio Life, which is a fantastic, detailed history of Willie's life as an artist. So we wanted a sort of a smaller, a sort of shorter introductory book about Willie, which is published this week, and it's by Virginia Button, and it's called Wilhelmina Barns-Graham. That's the lovely cover, and it's available in the Trust's shop right now. Bit of a plug there.
And we've also just added to our website, Rob, as well.
Great.
I know that we're about to get a brand new box of them.
Yeah.
So Rob, I'd just like to thank you and the Barns-Graham Trust for your time today. That was a fascinating presentation, so thank you, and also everyone for coming as well.
Thank you, Tommy, and good luck with the rest of the exhibition. Hope it goes well.
Thank you.